What's up, everyone? This is Nick from Catskill Mountain Customs here in upstate New York. And lately I've been noticing in my posts on social media or whatever, a lot of discussion about what tools I'm using to make the different panels I'm showing. And that's awesome. I'm always stoked to hear people interested in learning more about the trade and the tools that are used and things like that. So I thought I'd take a couple minutes today and show you guys some of the basic tools, what I consider basic tools, right? Nothing powered. We're talking hammers, dollies, things like that. That I use every single day, and that can be used to make pretty much anything you want. Tools like the power hammer I have here, English wheel, things like that. Those are professional quality tools, but what they mainly do is efficiency. They're mimicking all the things that we do by hand. They just do them faster, right? And when you're in business, efficiency is king. But the hand tools are an invaluable asset. They're the most important tools in the shop. You need them on every job, and they're just the most versatile. So I thought I'd take a couple minutes, bring you guys over to my tool drawer, and I'll show you some of the hand tools, the hammers, the dollies, things like that that I use every day, and I'll tell you a little bit about where I got them and that kind of stuff. So if you're interested, stick around. I'll turn the camera around and we'll go take a look. Okay, this is the tool chest where I keep my hammers and dollies, and I want to tell you a little bit about it because it's super nice. This came out of the Charade Knife Factory, which used to be locally, and when Charade Knives closed up shop, everything was auctioned off, and this was a machinist chest, and it was sold with a bunch of machinist tools in it. You know, we have a lot of Morse tapered bits, blanks, some hold down clamping stuff. The really nice thing about this tool chest is all of the drawers lift out, so that's super handy. Not to mention all the, fly cutters, end mills, things like that that came in it. A lot of it is way too big for my mill. It's the wrong taper, but it's just kind of cool stuff. I'll do something with it someday. So I'm going to bring the camera in closer now. We'll take a look at the tools in here. Okay, this is the hammer drawer. And what you look at here is about 15 years of accumulating stuff. That's about how long I've been doing this, and some of these things I've had for 15 years or longer, and then I've just added to them over the years. So I'll start in the back because this is the least used stuff. That's why it's jammed back there. This is just a cheap old dead blow hammer. I couldn't tell you for the life of me where I got it, maybe Lowe's or something like that. These are Eastwood auto body hammers, one of the cheap sets that they sell. You could probably get this set for under $50. I bought them just as kind of throwaway hammers, and also I could let my kids use them. They're 7 and 9, and they like to come out here and bang on stuff. So that's why I have them here. They almost never get pulled out. This is called a shrinking hammer. That's what they call it. Never ever use these. These things are terrible. They're garbage. But, if this is all you have, you can get the job done. I would just say take a angle grinder to this and get those teeth off there. You don't want that. Move to the next one. The best part about this video is watching me trying to get everything fit back in here after I take it out. Okay, this one, just a S-Wing plastic headed hammer you can get from Lowe's, rubber mallet, a little 3-pound sledge, nothing special there. But things that just come in handy to have around. You know what I mean? If you don't want to mar up your panel or something, this can work really well to move some material. The same thing with the rubber mallet. And back here, this one's real heavy. This is a rawhide mallet. And the only cool thing about a rawhide mallet is you can hit burning hot, searing hot metal with it. And it doesn't melt like plastic, but it's also not as harsh as using a metal hammer. So you can use this sometimes when heat shrinking metal. You heat up the metal and you hit it in a certain way with this, and this won't stretch the metal. It'll allow the metal to shrink as it cools, but it also won't melt like a plastic mallet. So that's a rawhide hammer. I almost never use it. Another dead blow, a company called Tecton sent this to me. Pretty beat up. It's been used a lot, but it works. This thing I picked up at an AutoZone or something like that. I mean, when I was probably 16 years old. Just, rubber-headed little body mallet. The ends pop off as you use it sometimes. But you know, handy, and I just keep it because I've had it for so long. I mean, I'm 41 now, and I guarantee you I had this when I was like 15 or 16. Okay, so there's that. Told you this stuff wouldn't fit back in there. That should work. All right, so now we'll get into the real tool. Looking at this end, this is a vintage Plum auto body hammer. It's also would be referred to as a fender hammer. These long neck is used to reach into like fenders and things like that, so that's why they call them a fender hammer. I like to buy vintage hammers on eBay, yard sales, wherever I could find them, and then I regrind the faces to my purposes, what I want them for. So something I have in my go-to auto body hammers is I know what the radiuses are on the faces. Like this one is a 24. These faces are dead flat. This one's a 12, and you know, so on and so forth. I grind the faces and polish them up to my use. These hammers are actually really due for a polish. I've been doing a lot of work on steel lately, so it kind of dulled the hammer faces a little bit. I like to have my hammer faces, you know, nice and clean, because whatever your hammer face is, that's how the surface of the metal is going to come out when you work on it. So keep your hammers nice. Never ever use, you know, your auto body hammer to hit a chisel or anything like that. You're going to mess them up. So this is my vintage Plum hammer. I just have some basic ball peen hammers. These come in just handy for, you know, using chisels, other tools like that. This is a nice hammer. This is a Picard hammer. You know, it's new style hammer. You could order these today. Again, I kind of redid the faces a little bit to my purposes. This one needs to be polished up a bit. I use it occasionally. I like to use it for if I got to smash welds and steel by hand, because this is like a nice heavy hammer. It's got some good heft to it. And it's really good for smashing welds, or if you got to move a lot of metal quick. Doesn't get a ton of use, but handy to have. A ball peen hammer that belonged to my father. This thing is 100 years old, probably. I don't know. This is a blocking hammer from a company called Dagger Tools. You can order these hammers today. Again, just another heavyweight hammer. High crown one end, flat on the other end. You know, just another hammer for the toolbox. Comes in handy. You can really stretch out a lot of metal on like a sandbag or something quickly with this if you want. Again, these real heavy hammers don't get a ton of use. It's kind of like a special needs thing, and then they're nice to have them. So put these back in. Good. It's so funny, this toolbox is not actually great for this purpose, but I just like the tool chest so much that I make it work. Okay, next section. Again, this is a vintage Plum hammer. It's an English company. I really like the vintage Plums because they're generally like lighter. I like kind of a light hammer. You know, it's a lot better to make 1,000 little hits than 100 super hard hits. You know, if you get your hammers and you can even file down the handles, a lot of guys like to do that, so more comfortable and they got a good weight, because you might be swinging it all day. You know, I mean, you want to make it as comfortable as possible. This is a vintage snap-on. You know, a higher crown face on this one. It's got the chisel end for linear stretching, setting edges, things like that, corners. This is another hammer from Dagger Tools. You know, just a little kind of dinging hammer. High radius one end, flat the other end. Another one from Dagger Tools, a dual linear stretch hammer. It's handy having it in the two different orientations. This was a hammer I had when I was a kid. It was an old body hammer. My dad got it for me. I really wanted it for some reason. I don't know why, but I've had it since I was like 5 or 6 years old. And I cut the back spike off it. That used to be on there like that. And I lopped that off to make it be able to get into tight areas and do some work. Just got a flat face on it for now that needs to be polished up. I might put a slight radius on that one. That might be nice. Another Dagger Tools hammer. Dagger Tools makes some pretty decent hammers for a good price. Slightly mellower radius on one side, a little steeper radius on the other side. Some good weight on this one. And then this hammer I got with the rubber faced one, probably like I said, when I was like 15 or 16 years old. I just kind of keep it around. I don't use it a ton. Generally, I don't like these fiberglass handled hammers. I don't like the feel of them, but this one feels really good for some reason. It's nice and light. I still will use it occasionally. These are called slappers, and these are used when planishing and smoothing metal. The nice wide surface area makes the hit. It kind of like softens the blow. It distributes the blow. And these two I made. This is my favorite. I like this nice curved one. I made this from a piece of trailer leaf spring. Just cut it out, cleaned up the face. I really like this one. This is my go-to 90% of the time. This one's made from a file, just bent up, ground down, polished on one side. Man, all my tools need a polish. This is a nice light one, flat one, comes in real handy. This one I bought from a company called Tin Man Tech. Unfortunately, Tin Man passed away and the company is no longer operating. But this is a reverse curve one. Has like a little bit of a radius on the face, if you can see that. And comes in handy from time to time. It's also got some nice weight to it. And I'll also flip it over and use it backwards and use the handle as my slapper. And that comes in real handy sometimes too. This is the only one I purchased though. And it doesn't get used a whole lot, but like everything else, when you need it, you need it. So I'll hold off on putting those back in for now. We'll go to my dolly section. Let me see. Can you guys see this good? Let me pan over here. There we go. So right on top, these are a couple post dollies I made. This little piece of 1/4-inch stainless rod welded to a handle to put in the vise. This is 1-inch chromoly tubing. Again, just welded to the vise. This is one I bought. I don't know where this came from. These both might have been Dagger Tools. You clamp them in the vise and you can pound against them. Handy little things to have. Not the greatest quality. You can see how dented up they are. They're not super hardened, great steel, but they work. They're real handy to have around. Now, these are all the different dollies I use. Again, the ones in the back are the lesser used ones. This one is a real cheap one, and I've just kind of been hanging on to it. These real cheap ones are awesome to have because you might run into a special purpose, and you can take a grinder to this and grind it to whatever shape you need, and you won't feel bad about it. And then, you have a handy little tool. This one is an old Bondo branded one. This came with the other two Bondo hammers I got back in the day. This one's been used a ton. It's pretty nice. I don't know who made these tools and branded them Bondo, but they're good steel, and this thing's been around forever. This is a trailer ball. Super handy sometimes. You need something round, you could put this in the vise and bang against it. That's all there is to it. This is a handle I made to hold planishing hammer dies. I'll show you that in a bit. We'll circle back to that. Another cheap one, I think this came from the Eastwood set. Again, comes in handy sometimes. You can use it, grind it to your use or whatever, but something to keep around. Again, this one was, I don't know where this came from, another cheaper one. I did some grinding the radius these edges at some point. It's got a sharper edge on it. Just another shape to have. This is nothing more than a piece of 1/4-inch steel that I put a little radius and edge on it. This is really nice if you're working on a tipped flange or a corner. You could put this in the vise and put that corner right on it and work against it. Every once in a while, I'll have to resharpen it up or something because it is just mild steel and it might start to round over. But, just something handy to have around. Gets used quite a bit. This is a tucking fork I made out of two center punches. Just a while back, I made it real quick and dirty when I needed one. I won't really get into what a tucking fork is here, but that just clamps in the vise. can put your tux, your metal with it. This is another tiny tucking fork, piece of rod bent. This is something I made when I was repairing a gas tank. I had to like get into it through the fuel neck and hammer out some dents. So this was like my dolly on inside the fuel tank. I was like hooked it in there. Another side too. And you know, I keep it around because it comes in handy, but you know, just bent up piece of rod with some little ends welded onto it, and it did the trick. This is a big tucking fork I made. I really like this style. Again, tucking fork is used to put tucks in metal, and then you can shrink the metal by hand. I'm not going to get too far into that operation, but that's what this is. And these are the dollies now that I use the most. This is a cheap heel dolly, not a great casting, but just comes in super handy. That gets quite a bit of use. Again, needs a polish. Everything is all beat up right now. This is just a hunk of tool steel. Use it all the time for all kinds of stuff, just to hammer on. Super handy. This is a vintage snap-on dolly I bought off eBay. It was all rusted up. I polished it up to where I needed it. And I know this radius here is a 24. This radius here is a 3. No, I'm sorry. This radius is 6. This radius is a 1.5, and this radius is a 3. So, you know, I mean, I pretty much know what that one is. This dolly is from Martin. This is how it came right out of the box, which is still here, Martin Tools. You can order this today. It'll come just like it. Real handy, nice, heavy, good, solid dolly to have. And the same with this one. This one is also from Martin. This is a new dolly, just like the other one. One of the most handy shapes, I think, to have. This comes in, a lot of people will call this like the bar soap dolly. Super handy. Again, low crown, higher crowns. I use this one a ton. These two are probably my most used, followed by this other Martin. So that is this drawer. I'll spare you the pain of watching me try to put this all in, and then we'll jump down to the next drawer and I'll show you what I got in there. Okay, drawer number 2. These are all my anvils for the English wheel, except missing the one that's in the wheel currently. You want to keep these nice and polished up so you get a beautiful finish on your panel. Sword radiuses from flat down to a 3. I use full radius lower anvils, meaning some lower anvils will be sold with a flat section in the middle. I don't like that. I like the traditional full radius. If you're into English wheels, you probably heard about that before. That's my take on it. You have to be a little bit gentler with them, but I think that's the way to go. These are all different dies for my planching hammer. My planching hammer is made by Tin Man's Garage out of Chicago, but it's called a Milwaukee style planching hammer. And these are all different upper and lower dies for it. The more dies you have for your planching hammer, the more versatile the tool is. The more versatile it is, the more efficient you are. And, you know what I mean, you're delivering a better product to your customer and getting it done quicker. So those are those. These are my snip draw. Let me see if you can see that. Okay. Nothing special going on here. I've got all these in here, and I could probably throw most of them away because all I ever use is a red handle and a green handle. That's it, and I'm more of a green handle guy. People will get into the weeds about, oh, red handle is for cutting left or green's for cutting right. It doesn't matter. All that matters about snips is which side the curl is coming off, right? Using the green handles, the curl is going to come off this side. Using the red handle, the curl is going to come off this side. You can cut either direction. It doesn't matter. What matters is which side the curl is coming off. That's all there is to it. These are wisps. My preference are Midwest and these nice offset ones. I bought these not long ago because my Midwests were getting dull and I just forgot to order new ones. So I got to order some new ones. I got some vintage ones in here just because they're cool. I don't know why. The rest of these could probably get thrown away. I never use them, but I guess I just hoard tools sometimes. But that's my thoughts on snips. Back here is some specialty stuff. This is just a pair of pliers that I ground out the middle, and I use them for grabbing metal and bending it. That's literally it. Sometimes I'll tip a whole flange on a panel with these. Grab them and bend it, and that's all there is to it. These are called flanging pliers. Roofers use them. You can buy them in Lowe's, and they come in handy sometimes. These are made by Fairmont. That's it. You can just grab an edge of a panel and whoop, bend a flange on it. This is a nice tool. This is a corking tool. This one is made by Cornfield Customs, my buddy Mike. Basically, it replaces a chisel with a Delrin insert. So if you work on aluminum or something, it's not as harsh. You can grind the insert to whatever shape you need. It's aluminum body, steel rear end. I used to have one of these that I made myself, but Mike's are just nicer. And, you know, if you want one, get one of these. Look up Cornfield Customs online. He sells these in his shop. They're nice. So that's that. Got a couple of old just dull chisels in here. Used for, you know, you could put in body lines with these, whatever. I grind the edge to whatever I need them for. And they just kind of hang around. Don't get a lot of use. This thing I use all the time. I got some railroad spikes hanging around here. And I just grind it to whatever shape I need. And they've got like a nice hitting surface. So I actually use railroad spikes all the time. I use this thing like crazy. You could even like use this end and hook it into something and hit it. Get yourself some railroad spikes. Go walk the tracks and find some. They should be free. Try not to pay for them. Just a pair of vice grips. Another railroad spike. And there's some pieces of Delrin insert material in here for Mike's tool. So I can just cut up and grind what I need. And this is a small shrinking disc, a 5-inch. This one's made by Pro Shaper Tools out of Massachusetts. Don't use it a whole lot. I like the serrated kind. There's two kinds of shrinking discs. Basically what they do is they create heat in your panel through friction, and it allows you to shrink the metal in a small spot. I won't get into weeds about those, but this is what one of the smooth ones look like. This one's pretty worn out. My buddy Mike, who makes a corking tool, also makes serrated shrinking discs, and those I think are much better. But this one, it works pretty well. And that's that. So I will take you over to the last of my go-to hand tools at the stump. All right, the last of my go-to hand tools, my stump here. The stump is from an oak tree that fell on my property. And it was like all dead and kind of gummy. I had to cut it up, and I drug this stump in here, and it's been here ever since. It's a nice work surface. It is starting to split up on me, though, quite a bit. I have a feeling one day I'm going to hit it, and it's just going to fall in two. But these are my shot bags. They're filled with lead shot. Lead shot's kind of hard to find around me. I don't know how it is in other areas. Everything's moved to steel shot to get rid of the lead. A buddy of mine actually found a bunch of the lead shot in the basement of his estate sale and grabbed it for me. These bags are super nice. The leather bags are made by Snap Fab. You can look them up. They're in South Dakota. I have these 3 different sizes. I've had them for years, and they just hold up. They're made really well. Super handy to have. You could also buy, you know, cheaper versions of these, but, you know, if you can get some nice quality ones, they'll last you forever. This wooden slapper, I believe, is from maybe Dagger Tools. I'm not really sure where I got it. I've had it for a very long time, but you can find them on like auto body supply websites. They're nice just for kind of like bending metal around without messing up the surface too much. They got some nice heft to them, so you can move some good metal with them. Super handy to have. This is a cheap teardrop mallet from Eastwood. I use it all the time. Super handy. This is a Harbor Freight teardrop mallet. Just a little bit lighter. I use it from time to time. Not a whole lot, but it hangs out here in case I need it. This hammer is special. I ordered this one from Peter Tomasini in Australia. this casting is like an iconic old hammer, and Peter Tomasini replicated it and produced some. Unfortunately, I don't believe he's shipping to the States anymore. You'd have to look him up and see. But this is a blocking hammer. So this is used against the stump or the bag to really stretch out metal. And this is by far the nicest one I've ever used, I've ever seen. It's just perfect. I love this hammer. And that's it. All right, so that's pretty much it for my go-to hand tools. I thought I'd show you guys this quick before I left. This is a aluminum fairing for a Triumph for a super, super patient customer. I gotta get this thing done. It's on me. But all of this section here is done with hand tools. It's just too tight to really get into any of the machines. And the only way to get this done is hand tools. This line, those were put in, with the corking tool or hammer and dolly. And then it was all planished out by hand with slappers and then polished, finished. And I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but you can see maybe on the inside here, all the hammer marks just from working these panels by hand. So investing in some good hand tools will last you a lifetime. The skills are invaluable. It's just kind of all about practice. And a lot of my tools, like those vintage tools, the vintage hammers, I picked up on eBay for like 30 bucks a piece and then refinished them here for free. Just with some files, grinders, sandpaper, that kind of thing. And you can refinish those faces out really nice. If you can manage to get yourself a mallet, some sort of sandbag or shop bag, a couple of dollies and a couple of body hammers, you're really on your way. You can go really far with that stuff. And I encourage everyone just to try to get some basics and just get started. Just start banging on metal. That's how I started, and that's the best way to learn. Just see what happens. You know what I mean? Start learning how metal moves. Nowadays, there's a ton of really great information on the internet to give you a head start. A lot of people offer classes. I teach classes a few times a year with Bailey Industrial at different locations. My buddy Mike Wagner at Cornfield Customs offers a really great class. If you get out there and start searching, the stuff is out there to get you started. So hit me up with any questions. That's all I got for today. I'll see you guys later.